Ohio State played Clemson this past season in the college football playoffs. Clemson won the game, advancing to the national title, and when the game ended, the coaches shook hands, players congratulated each other. That was it. The game ended pretty normal. Well, let's flash back to nearly 40 years ago, in 1978. We had the exact same matchup, but the game will have a much different ending. The matchup almost felt like David versus Goliath, at least as far as the head coaches in the game. The David in this matchup, Clemson, led by 31-year-old interim head coach Danny Ford. He was literally just promoted from being the O-line coach after their head coach had decided to leave right before this game. And for his first career game, he is matched up against Woody Hayes. 28 seasons, 205 career wins, 5 national titles, in the conversation as one of the greatest coaches of all time. Ford said in a recent interview, "I was scared to death. He was an icon and a legend. I was just a kid." In the press conferences leading up to the game, "I was like a reporter. I just sat in the back and listened while he talked." The stage for this game was set. Flash forward to late in the fourth. Clemson is clinging to a 2-point lead, with Ohio State driving.
24-yard line, third down, 5. Schleister looks at Donnelly. Throws it short, it's intercepted! Charlie Palmer!
That man is Woody Hayes.
Charlie Palmer, middle guard, intercepted it. Schleister looked into the middle of the short pass.
One of the Clemson linebackers apparently heard Woody Hayes yell, "You SOB, I just lost my job." This punch led to both teams brawling it out. Danny Ford, the young Clemson head coach, ran over to help break up the brawl, and one of the Ohio State players ripped his hat off, and he ended up getting pretty scared. He said in the same interview, "I think he thought I was the manager or something. I picked my hat up and got back to the sidelines in a hurry." Honestly, imagine if this scene would have happened nowadays. This would break the internet, and I'm pretty sure Woody Hayes would have been charged with assault. And the fact that they just let him coach the rest of the game is crazy to me. I guess it is 1978. Let's go back to the punch. Let's break this thing down. First of all, Woody Hayes is 65 at the time. Look at him line this thing up for like 5 seconds. And if he misses the punch, he will end up breaking his hand on the face mask. Or he'll end up just hitting his shoulder pads. Pretty much doing nothing. Well, he lands it. Kinda. Then it looks like he proceeds it by trying to grab his throat. The announcers, I don't know what they're looking at. They don't even notice this happened.
I can't tell there. I don't see anything that would have triggered it except a lot of glum faces.
Which is odd. How do they miss that? Overall, this was a pretty vicious act from a head football coach. Not the punch itself, it didn't do much. But the intent was there. The whole thing was bizarre, especially from a man as iconic as Woody Hayes. Actually, he was a bit of a wild man. He really didn't like to lose. 1971 versus Michigan, he grabs the first down marker and tosses it. '73 versus USC, he throws his headset at the dude's ankles while he's returning an interception. In the same game, he shoves a camera into the photographer's face, which he was later suspended for 3 games and fined $2,000. In 1974, he backhanded a fan after losing to Michigan State. And in 1977 versus Michigan, it's kind of hard to tell, but watch him spot the cameraman in the corner of his eye, then proceed to throw a gut punch. All this is pretty insane. He was even like this with his own players. Former Ohio State guard Jim Saboka said in an interview, "Everybody who played for Ohio State probably got slugged in the stomach or slapped by Coach Hayes. We would joke about it and say, 'Circle right' to get away from that left hook." And then one of his assistants, Glenn Mason, who coached the O-line in 1978, he said, "I think if you spent 4 years at Ohio State and Woody didn't hit you, you felt cheated." I know this is 1978, but that's pretty intense. And Woody Hayes at that time was in his mid-60s. This punch would cost him his job. He was fired the next day and would never coach again. To be fair to him, he was incredibly well respected. Whether it was his own players, opposing coaches, or the media, people raved about how good of a guy he was, and how many life lessons he taught them. Even though he has one of the greatest coaching resumes of all time, his coaching career will always be overshadowed by that punch.